I'm not going to lie. Nice long weekend is going to be good for everyone. No daily puck drop yesterday, no daily puck drop today. It's going to return on Monday with Jim Moore. He makes his debut after being locked up in the cell that is iHeart Media Management. He's got stories. Okay, he knows where the bodies are buried. But before we get to Jim Moore on Monday, I caught up with Jon Manley of the Tacoma News-Tribune earlier this week to discuss the future of Chambers Bay. Jon broke the news that LIV Golf in Chambers Bay and officials from Pierce County specifically have had preliminary discussions about having a LIV event at Chambers. Well, how would that go over with the golfing community and folks in Pierce County? Jon and I cover it all. Hope you enjoy the episode. Have a great weekend. We're going to talk to you on Monday on the Daily Puck Drop. And as always, we promise to be better.
That would be exciting. But I just want to say, Puck, first of all, you're doing a great job. I've been listening to the podcast regularly. You got Apple Music, not on Amazon. You say Amazon. I don't know who uses Amazon for podcasting.
I don't know. I just say it just to say it.
But it's been awesome. I think you've done a great job and have had interesting guests on, and I hope everyone has been listening because it's been I think a smashing success for you.
Well, thank you. I appreciate the kind words. Well, I'm flipping through X the other day, and I stumble upon a story where the headline, it just grabs me right away. Chambers Bay and LIV Golf having conversations. Jon, you have the story at the News-Tribune. We'll encourage people to go read it, but give us the latest for people who haven't read it, right? Some of our viewers and listeners probably haven't heard about this story. Give us the details on perhaps a relationship between the two.
Well, I think that's the big thing. I think the big thing is that the tone has shifted a little bit from Pierce County. It used to be, I remember when the 2022 PGA Championship left one of the Trump golf courses for, I can't remember the reason, some kind of controversy. I know that's a shock, Trump and controversy, but something happened. And so I had reached out to Pierce County to see if they would be interested in pursuing a bid for the PGA Championship that year, since it was vacant. And, they had almost this deference to the USGA, and, we don't want to step on their toes, and we wouldn't even want to harm the relationship with the USGA. So they publicly said they were not even going to pursue it. And I think that tone has shifted a little bit. Originally, they were looking at hopefully sometime in that window to 2030 to 2034 for hopefully hosting a second U.S. Open. And now you look, and future U.S. Open sites have been booked through 2042. So clearly, there are some growing concerns that the relationship with the USGA is becoming a bit one-sided. They're passing over Chambers regularly. They've gone to these kind of anchor sites at Pebble Beach and others that are going to host over and over again. And Chambers is kind of on the outside looking in. So I had reached out to Pierce County again. Don Anderson is their kind of golf guy. He is a lawyer and executive counsel, I think is his title, to Pierce County Executive Bruce Danmeyer. And said, yeah, LIV has reached out to us. Someone from their marketing agency reached out to us, and we're open to conversations, which again is a shift, because I think if I had asked that 3 years ago, you would say, we're not interested in LIV, and we're not going to pursue that. But
Jon, how far do you think? How would you describe perhaps the conversations between Pierce County, Chambers Bay, and LIV right now? Exploratory?
Yeah, I don't even think they've officially talked yet. So it sounded like someone from LIV's marketing agency reached out to Don Anderson. He agreed to sit down with them, and he told me, I think I had talked with him last Wednesday, last Thursday, I can't remember which day, but he had told me he expects to start talking with them in the next couple of weeks. But of course, he's also aware of the realities of the controversy of LIV Golf. And the Saudi monarchy and the sports washing concerns and their human rights record. And when you're a municipal golf course and things need county council approval and all that sort of thing, that adds another layer of kind of complication to the whole thing.
It sure does. I mean, I think that I talked about it yesterday. I think there would be, a strong push maybe from the folks in Pierce County to have it. It would be probably a stark contrast to the folks in King County. That's just kind of how we separate the two counties. But I said it yesterday, John. I'm encouraged by it because, to me, whether they do anything with LIV or not, or they're using this as leverage with the USGA or somebody else to say, hey, we will listen to other opportunities. I guess that's what I like about Chambers and Pierce County is that they're finally, it looks like they're getting to that point where they're reaching out to different businesses and different associations because of what you just talked about. USGA is let's be honest, it's not coming back.
No.
The U.S. Open is never going to be played there again. If they wanted to come back, they would have already done it by now.
Right. And I think they pump up these, the amateur four ball has come in and we still have a great relationship with the USGA. And that's all well and nice. I don't want to say that's worthless or anything. It's still nice golf tournaments, but that doesn't move the needle as far as tourism and all that sort of thing and exposure for your golf course. I think you have to start looking elsewhere and talking with, whoever it is, the PGA Championship, the PGA Tour, LIV, whoever it is. You need to, this golf course was built and intended to be a tourism driver, and you need to get eyeballs on that golf course, and you need major men's tournaments there, and you need these big golfers there, and the newspaper articles and us talking about it and the TV exposure and all that sort of thing to, like Don had said, to keep the course relevant in the mind of golfers across the country and across the world who want to come play this course because they saw a big tournament on TV and they saw Bryson DeChambeau play it or whoever. Mm-hmm. And it, that's what brings people from out of town and gets this golf course on kind of their bucket list to play.
LIV, you look at their schedule, at least LIV, what they did this year, they had an event in Vegas. They also went to Miami. They went to Houston. They just completed that Nashville one, which was wildly popular, based in large part because DeChambeau was there, and it's coming off the heels of him winning the U.S. Open. They'll also play at the Greenbrier, and then Chicago, and they'll end in Dallas. We're going to jump to like when would be the best time to play golf here. I would think, kind of around the U.S. Open time, in which they did back when it was at Chambers Bay or in September. What do you think, John? It would be perceived down there if Chambers partnered up with LIV? How do you think that?
I saw my story had made the Tacoma subreddit, which I think is officially when you've made it, but I think the title that someone posted there was LIV Golf, like gross or ew or something like that. So, but then I think there were some more nuanced comments. I was reading through that thread on Reddit, and people said, I have conflicted feelings about this. I took my son and we were in Nashville, I think it was, and went to one of the LIV events, and it was objectively fun, and they had tents for the kids and different things, and it was kind of like a party. But I also felt conflicted about the Saudi monarchy's reputation and just kind of the track record there. So I think a lot of people would feel conflicted. I think a lot of people would welcome the opportunity to see some of the world's best golfers, and I think a lot of people would be downright opposed to it and upset about it. So I think that's kind of all over the spectrum. I think probably somewhere in that middle ground of conflicted feelings is probably where most people would end up.
Yeah, I mean, you're not going to get a men's U.S. Open. I know there's always been some hope maybe for a women's U.S. Open to come to Chambers. I don't know if you feel the same way. If they were to get in bed with LIV, that would for sure kill any chance of a relationship in the future with the USGA. I would imagine. And I would imagine the USGA, even their four ball amateur stuff, that they would immediately pull all of it.
Yeah, probably you would think so. So that's another thing you have to weigh of, do you think realistically you might have a shot at the U.S. Open? I mean, you're looking at Puck, I don't know, 30 years from now, maybe, and you're rolling the dice on that. It's like, a lot of people listening to this are going to be dead by then. I might be dead. Who knows? Hopefully, I'll still be around. by then, but God willing. But you know, it's so far away. I don't. As people realize how long 2 decades, 3 decades is. You're talking about potentially another lifetime from now. So, I if you're going to roll the dice on hoping for another U.S. Open, I would hope that you would have some kind of assurances or, you know, a really good feeling about it before, you know, you were just going to wait around for it.
Yeah, you had mentioned, I mean, the next opening date is 2043. And now this, maybe something happens where one of these cities or one of these places, you know, pulls out, and then like Chambers did last time, they can sneak in here. But I mean, the USGA, right, John, is they've made it, you know, known that they want their anchor sites. They want the old school, the Pebble Beach and the Wingfoot and Pinehurst and Marion and Riviera. They want all those, Oakmont. They want all those sites to be in the rotation. I was wanted to curious with the women's sites, or at least the women's tournament. Again, the women's tournament right now, it goes, I mean, it's almost the same length. I think the opening is 2039.
Yeah.
It goes all the way to Oakmont in 2038.
Okay. I had talked to Dawn about that. I didn't get that in the story because I just didn't have space to kind of dive into another topic. But I thought he said 2036, but it might be 2039. But yeah, either way, they are still advocating to host the U.S. Women's Open, and I know Don Anderson's big thing is just the, kind of advocating for the Korean population in King County and Pierce County, and obviously a large part of the women's golf world is Korean, and we have a big Korean population, so he seems to think that's a plus in regards to Chambers hosting that. So yeah, I think they're still in play for that, and maybe that would be, you know, a kind of a trial run for a potential future men's U.S. Open at some point. But that just remains to be seen at this point.
In your conversations with Don and anybody with Pierce County, again, John, what has the feedback from the USGA been about why they can't get another U.S. Open there? Okay, I mean, I understand the greens, they fixed those. Chambers Bay fixed those at the request of the USGA, who, by the way, they're the ones responsible for ruining them that week. Right. Now, the spectators, I don't know. I thought they were going to do something with the mounds to make it more walkable or accessible for people to watch. But do you know what the feedback to Pierce County, to Chambers, has been from the USGA, why they haven't been awarded another U.S. Open yet?
No, and that's kind of the strange part about it, Puck. It's everything has been so complimentary, and they've said the greens are amazing now. And I talked with Mark Hill, who is the USGA's managing director of championships, I think is his title. And I talked with him when the U.S. Women's Am was down here a couple of years ago, and he had nothing but great things to say. And the greens are great, and they've done such a nice job. And we would love to come back to Chambers Bay, and we share a great relationship with Pierce County. And it seems like it's all this lip service, but it's, when a push comes to shove, they don't actually award it with another major. So I'm not sure what the issue is. I think the walkability, like you said, probably has something to do with it. I don't think they probably loved the controversy around just the putting greens and different things. And, you know, they didn't want maybe the story around that 2015 U.S. Open to be about the course's issues rather than the golf. But, you know, I mean, Chambers went to pretty considerable time and expense. It took like 3 years for them to replace every single green and hundreds of thousands of dollars. And it seems great now. I mean, I've walked the course and seen it, and the greens are fantastic. So, so I don't know what the issue is. And I think it's partly, you know, maybe some of that controversy from before, and partly like you and I had just talked about with the anchor sites kind of occupying a lot of those spots now. They're just tougher for Chambers to come by at this point.
It's just too bad. It's just it's such a wonderful golf course, and it is such a great. It looked beautiful, just the scenes and the shots, you know, back when they played it, and there's just everything kind of came together at like the wrong time for Chambers. That was the first year that Fox had the coverage, and that was in the Fox coverage. The booth was bad. It wasn't the traditional NBC coverage. The fact unseasonably hot. It's never that hot that time of year, which caused all types of issues. It was too bad. But what's maddening about it, John, it was one of the greatest finishes in championship history.
Right.
I mean, and that's what gets lost with the greens and then the spectators and all that, and it being a new course. Was you want to talk about drama in the last few holes, and you want to talk about two guys stepping up on the final hole and both hit incredible approaches into a par 5.
Right.
You couldn't have asked for any more in terms of drama.
Yeah, the golf was awesome, and yeah, those concerns about the putting greens when you're at the 18th hole with the grandstands and it's that kind of finish, all that gets kind of washed away. And I would say also just the atmosphere and the scene at Chambers. I mean, I would put that view up. You're walking along the top there. I would put that view up against pretty much anywhere in the world. I mean, it's just so spectacular, and with the sound and just the layout of the course, it's just different. It's not those super narrow tree lined fairways that you're seeing at a lot of. So I think I don't know. I mean, of course it's in my backyard, and I'm a Tacoma guy, born and raised, and so I'm probably a little biased. But I just think it was such an awesome event, and set merchandise records, and just the excitement around here. And which, if you're having it at a private club for the 700th time, are you really going to get that kind of excitement? I don't think so. So it's the whole thing was just so cool. It's so cool for the region. And so I would hope that we'll see something like that in the future.
What was not lost in the story, and not even really buried, but it was also a mention of, hey, the Pierce County and Chambers would be open to exploring other possibilities. And you'd mentioned in your piece, again, News-Tribune, go read it. John will give you all the details before we cut them loose here and where to find it. But it's a great piece about Chambers Bay and Pierce County, looking at both LIV and, as you mentioned, the PGA of America. Have they reached out to the PGA of America to talk about a PGA championship at all?
They said they haven't, and the PGA of America hasn't reached out to them. But I would hope that at this point you're trying to be open for business. You're exploring every possibility, and obviously it's a lot of work, and it's something that's added on to the kind of the plates of Pierce County leadership, and maybe golf doesn't always feel like it should be the number one priority, but when you're a steward of this golf course, and it's like I had said before, it's intended to be a tourism driver, and you have the opportunity to bring these major events and have people staying in hotels and bring in people eating at local restaurants and all the things that are associated with kind of a boost to the local economy. I would think that you would be actively pursuing any kind of opportunity you could get, ideally.
Yeah, and I think in the story you mentioned, just maybe one of the concerns is you need to have a pretty wealthy title sponsor, somewhere $15 to $30 million of a title sponsor because of that. To me, when I read that, I'm like, I don't know. I think it would be, I don't know about you, John, it'd be pretty easy to find a title sponsor here in this area with all the companies that we have.
Yeah, and I think Don had mentioned that Wells Fargo had dropped out as a title sponsor for I can't remember if it was the PGA Tour or the PGA Championship, but there have been some kind of different, it's a tougher economy right now.
Sure.
And I think you're not maybe getting those huge corporate sponsorships quite as frequently. But yeah, I mean, that's part of when you're running this kind of major operation, that's part of it. You gotta go find these sponsors, and like you said, we got an Amazon here that's pretty. I don't know. I've heard it's a pretty big company. I see their trucks everywhere all the time. So I think there are different options available out there that you could make happen. It's just putting the legwork in of getting all these people in a room together and trying to hammer it out and find someone.
There's always been this talk, John, about how the Champions Tour Boeing Classic would somehow step in the way and prevent any like a PGA event from happening here because of their relationship. And I would be like, if come on, I mean, and I like the Boeing Classic, and I like the Champions Tour, and that's fun, and I've gone to it many times and have a wonderful time. But no way, shape, or form should that tournament stand in the way of getting maybe a regular tournament here or any other future events. I hope that would never be the case. It's too bad because this area is great for golf, and the climate can be perfect, whether it's in, the early part of the summer, or even, kind of late September. I don't know about you, John. I find one venue that would be perfect, and I've talked to a bunch of golf people about this one. I think it is Chambers Bay would be an absolutely ideal Ryder Cup platform.
Right.
And course, I think it would be sensational. Now, I mean, maybe it benefits the Europeans more because this is the type of course they play, but yeah. I just think the drama and the different shots and the creativity that you would have to have on that course would be ideal for them.
Yeah. Bring it over. I mean, that would be fun to cover for me. So
I think it'd be fun. I think what again, I think the main thing I took away from your piece, and I just think from what Pierce County and LIV and everything, is that I think for the first time in a long time, they have just said to themselves, we're open for business and we'll explore ideas.
Right.
And I think that's a good move by Pierce County and Chambers Bay.
Yeah, and I think, like you had said earlier, maybe it's a negotiation piece, and puts a little pressure on the USGA, because this relationship has become so one-sided, and it's Pierce County just kind of taking whatever scraps the USGA will give them. So maybe this alarms. I don't know. Maybe it won't, but maybe it'll say, the USGA, okay, maybe we'll get Chambers back in the rotation at some point.
Yeah.
And we want to keep this relationship going. So, I think it's a good thing. Being open for business, I think exploring your options, I think, can only help at a certain point.
Tell everyone where they can find the story, the Chambers Bay and LIV story right now.
It's at theNews-Tribune.com. You can find all my work there under the sports tab of the website. We have an app that's been revamped recently, which is awesome. And I just want to say thank you to everyone that subscribes. I know a lot of people subscribe for my high school sports content mostly, but I think it's awesome. It's a great feeling, running into people that say, longtime subscriber, and thank you for still covering high school sports. Yes. And a lot of newspapers don't anymore. And, I write about golf or whatever, but it's the bulk of my work is high school sports and the sports being played in our community. And it's still this kind of last kind of pure thing we have in this world of kids that grow up together and they play sports together for, without trying to leverage NIL money and all that sort of garbage.
Well, until the NIL money starts getting into high school athletics.
Yeah, I mean, there would probably be a couple athletes who could demand that kind of market, but it's few and far between at the high school level. So, but yeah, on X, Twitter, I'm there, Manley_TNT. But yeah, just thank you to everyone who subscribes to our paper. I'm genuinely grateful.
Yeah, you do a great job. John does a tremendous job of covering high school athletics there for the News-Tribune. All right, there he is, Jon Manley, inside the Puck Sports Studios, built by Limbach Lumber to give summer and deck season is here. Also fence season. Give the fine fellows over at Limbach Lumber a call at 206-782-3487 or visit them online at limbachlumber.com. Puck Sports Studios, built by Limbach Lumber. John, we'll talk to you down the line. Appreciate you coming on.
Thanks, Puck.